Take a deep breath, she told me, hands trembling around her coffee mug. What I'm about to tell you, it's been haunting me for years. I leaned closer across the small cafe table. Cassie's eyes darted nervously to the door before returning to mine. She looked different now, stronger, but with shadows I'd never noticed before. I've never told anyone the whole story, she whispered, about living there, about what was beneath that house. She closed her eyes as if summoning courage from somewhere deep inside. It started when I moved into his mansion. Everyone thought I was living this dream life. If they only knew. Her voice trailed off. The first few weeks seemed normal, extravagant, but normal. Then things started changing. He became controlling, monitoring everything. My calls, my friends, even what I ate. She took a sip of her coffee, eyes distant with memories. But that wasn't the worst part, not even close. Her voice dropped even lower. One night, he asked if I wanted to see something special, something nobody else knew about. The coffee between us had gone cold. Neither of us noticed. He led me outside, near the pool. There was this spot in the landscaping, perfectly disguised, a hatch hidden beneath foliage. I felt a chill despite the cafe's warmth. Concrete stairs descended into darkness. When the hatch closed behind us, it was like the world above stopped existing. She described the corridor, impossibly long, with bare walls and lights that hummed at a frequency that made her teeth ache. It didn't feel like a home anymore, she said, eyes focused on something I couldn't see. It felt institutional, clinical. She described him walking ahead, having conversations with nobody, leading her deeper into that labyrinth. There was a secured door that required a code, and what waited behind it. Her hands tightened around the mug. The chamber was bathed in red light, cameras mounted in every corner, watching, always watching. Leather furniture positioned in ways that made no logical sense. The air smelled like chemicals and something else I couldn't name. It wasn't designed for comfort, she whispered. It was designed for documentation. She described shelves lined with props, masks that seemed too realistic, restraints, mirrors positioned to create infinite reflections. It wasn't fantasy, she said. It was control. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. There are two women down there, she continued after a long pause, in wigs and masks, one lying motionless on a couch, the other sitting near recording equipment. They didn't speak. They barely moved, like dolls positioned for a scene. He called them his performers. I wasn't allowed to speak to them. She described the overwhelming need to escape, the excuse she made, the way she locked herself in a bedroom 3 floors up, but still felt the presence of that place beneath her. His warning came later. You never saw anything. You repeat, nothing. That place exists for me, not for you. She never returned below, but the images haunted her dreams. There were 3 more rooms I glimpsed before fleeing, she said, voice now eerily calm. One completely dark except for what looked like restraints on the wall, one with a mirror and control panel, beside what appeared to be an examination table, one containing only a chair and electronic equipment I couldn't identify. That's when primal fear took over, she told me. He laughed at my terror, said I wasn't ready for what happened there, that it was too real for someone like me. Her voice cracked as she continued. But the words he whispered before I reached the final door froze my blood. This is where I bring the ones I own. She described hearing sounds behind one door, like distorted music playing at half speed. And then the horrifying realization. Human voices, altered beyond recognition. Her body physically rejected the memory. She started shaking right there in the cafe. I told no one about what I'd seen, because I was terrified of disappearing. That's how it felt. Like I'd vanished completely, like those women in that room. She took a deep breath before continuing. Then came the freak-offs. That's what he called them. Not parties, but performances. Orchestrated encounters with specific participants. Always documented. She showed me texts on her phone, preserved all this time. Game starts at 10 p.m. No breaking character until 8 a.m. Bring the candles. Wear the outfit. I need you unrecognizable. These weren't random, she explained. They happened twice monthly. Some spontaneous when the mood was right. Others planned with military precision. Her eyes clouded. I was given substances that made time blur. That made compliance easy. Some happened in the tunnel. One night, I was required to wear materials that restricted movement. Complete silence was mandatory. There were strangers whose faces were concealed. Breaking character meant punishment. She remembered his instructions clearly. Tonight, I control everything. No safe word. Afterward, I didn't recognize myself. Like pieces of me had been removed. She described the substances, designer combinations, opiates, MDMA, things she couldn't identify. They didn't just alter perception, they eliminated resistance. She woke once on his Miami property, disoriented, body positioned unnaturally, camera still recording an empty space. I had no memory of how I got there, no idea who else had been in that room. Recordings kept as insurance, she explained. You're mine forever now, he'd remind her. She glimpsed footage once. Herself with two unidentifiable men. A night she had no memory of. Her pleading, delete it. His response, everything stays archived. For leverage. The control was absolute. He monitored her movements, communications, even her breathing patterns. Phone calls would arrive the moment I contemplated leaving, she said. It was like he could read my mind. He systematically isolated her from reality itself. I tried rehab once, she admitted. Failed when he appeared at the facility, convincing staff I was unstable and dramatic. She left with 36 hours of missing time. I wasn't alone, she said, meeting my eyes directly for the first time in minutes. There were others, many others. Women who arrived composed but left different. Some celebrities whose public personas seemed to shift overnight. They'd arrive conscious, leave like empty shells. His staff moved with practiced efficiency, always appearing at exactly the right moment to clean up, to arrange, to ensure silence. One entered without permission once, just said, sorry boss, and backed away, like it was normal. Like nothing happening there was unusual. She described the code of silence. Because no one would believe us. Because he's him. Because the world sees what it wants to see. She described physical abuse with clinical precision. Injuries that left permanent damage. Bruises in places cameras wouldn't capture. She brushed her hair back, revealing a scar above her eye still visible in the cafe lighting. He said I shouldn't have made him angry. That I deserved worse. Psychological punishment for attempting independence. Messages sent through trusted friends. The constant sensation of being watched, even in private spaces. I asked why she didn't seek help. Because his influence extends everywhere. Into every system meant to protect people like me. She told me about the boat incident. Voice barely audible. He pushed me overboard miles from shore. Called me ungrateful. As I struggled to stay afloat. She paused, then continued. But there was one night. I haven't told anyone about this. I leaned in, sensing the gravity of her next words. Late one night, I awoke with an urgent need to use the bathroom. As I navigated the dimly lit hallway, I noticed a door in the hidden closet room ajar, as if hastily closed. Curiosity piqued. I approached and discovered a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Her voice trembled. The air grew colder with each step, and an overwhelming stench of decay filled my nostrils. The corridor at the bottom was long, dark, and sticky, exuding an aura of something ancient and obscure. The walls seemed to scream of violence and crime, bearing large gouges as if clawed by a massive beast over centuries. She swallowed hard. I could barely see, but I pressed on, drawn by an inexplicable force. At the corridor's end, I entered a room reeking of rotten meat. Inside, a board displayed names and pictures of famous individuals, and a freezer hummed ominously. Tears welled in her eyes. Overcome by dread, I opened the freezer to find human hands, heads, and organs meticulously packed in bags. Horror-stricken, I fled the room, careful not to alert him to my discovery. She looked at me, eyes pleading for understanding. I needed to tell someone, to finally be free of the nightmares. For the first time in years, I could breathe without permission. Recovery meant excavating buried memories. Therapy with specialists in coercive control. Then came the lawsuit, she said, her voice stronger now. Settled in record time. The legal document wasn't about money. It was proof that what happened was real. As others came forward, authorities discovered structures beneath his properties that matched her testimony exactly. Some findings were sealed because they were too disturbing for public record. She reached across the table then, gripping my hand with surprising strength. This isn't just about justice for me. It's about exposing what's hidden for everyone who entered that house, for those who were consumed in those tunnels, for those whose names we may never know. The cafe continued its normal bustle around us, but between us, reality itself seemed to shift. She hadn't just told me a story. She'd torn open a portal to a hidden world operating alongside our own, one disguised by wealth, power, and our collective refusal to see. The truth isn't just out, she whispered, finally releasing my hand. It's hunting the guilty. Whispers. If you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button. There's more to this story than meets the eye.